The Carry were the oldest known species in the galaxy. For millennia, they ruled the stars, untouched by war, untouched by fear. Every race they encountered either submitted willingly or vanished quietly. Fear, to the Carry, was a primitive notion, a concept they believed only undeveloped minds entertained. They had eradicated fear from their genetic code, perfected logic, and mastered psychological equilibrium. But all of that changed the moment they discovered the transmission from Earth. It was a simple, garbled signal, ancient by their standards, but it carried something deeply disturbing: laughter. Human laughter. Raw, uncontrollable, maniacal. It wasn't the kind of laughter they'd come to understand from other peaceful species. It was twisted joy at chaos, the kind that echoed during moments of destruction or pain. They replayed the clip 1,000 times in their great halls, debating its meaning, analyzing its tone, frequency, the slight background noises. No other species laughed like that. No other species enjoyed fear. The Carry decided Earth had to be observed. They sent a scout ship, cloaked and silent, orbiting just outside the moon's shadow. What they found disturbed even their most emotionless analysts. Humanity wasn't a race of peace, it was a race that had grown through pain. They thrived in conflict, they evolved through war, and worst of all, they had survived extinction multiple times and kept smiling through it. The Carry delegation watched historical records, mushroom clouds devouring cities, trenches filled with mud and blood, humans clawing through disaster after disaster, often turning on each other just to survive. One Carry scholar asked, why do they keep going? The answer terrified them, because humans didn't need a reason. They were chaos wrapped in flesh, logic buried under layers of raw emotion and sheer willpower. And then the Carry made their second mistake: they initiated contact. A formal broadcast was sent to the leaders of Earth, offering a diplomatic alliance cloaked with subtle warnings, a test of compliance disguised as goodwill. But Earth didn't respond the way the Carry expected. The message was intercepted by a civilian hacker who leaked it online. Humanity didn't react with fear, they reacted with memes, mockery, laughter again. The message was dissected and turned into jokes. Surrender to the space elves, one meme read, with a poorly drawn alien holding a white flag. Another featured a Carry ship photoshopped into a fast food logo. The Carry panicked. Their advanced minds couldn't comprehend this reaction. Diplomacy had always brought submission. They increased their efforts, sending ships closer, deploying stealth drones across major cities, trying to understand this volatile species before war became inevitable. But humans noticed, not through satellites or radars, through instinct. Soldiers began to report sightings. Civilians uploaded blurry photos and shaky videos of weird triangles in the sky. The internet buzzed with theories, and somewhere deep in a mountain, a group of humans in black suits took interest. Project Thanatos, long dormant, was reactivated. Carry drones were hunted, one by one. They were shot down, dissected, and reverse-engineered. And when the Carry finally realized what was happening, it was too late. The terror they never believed in had already started to bloom. Their ships, undetectable for centuries, began vanishing without a trace. The high thinkers of Kaler convened for the first emergency meeting in over 10,000 cycles. The topic was unthinkable, the human threat. They wanted to evacuate their observation outposts, but something had already gotten inside. One by one, their mind-link systems failed. The last transmission from an outpost orbiting Mars sent just 2 words in panicked binary: they're laughing. And then silence. The Carry, for the first time in their existence, didn't know what to do. They had studied fear like a theoretical concept, but now, in the face of something they couldn't predict, couldn't control, couldn't even understand, they felt it: real, raw, paralyzing fear. The Carry high thinkers, once serene in their eternal calm, now whispered with a tremor in their synthetic voices. They hadn't known panic, their minds had been conditioned against it, calibrated for efficiency and clarity. But fear was no longer a theory. It had become a biological memory, rekindled by something ancient, something primal. And it was human. They're laughing. The final message from the outpost played in a loop inside the Great Core's thought chamber. Hundreds of Carey minds linked into one collective stream, trying to make sense of the impossible. A young analyst, barely 500 years old, attempted to speak but found himself disconnected by the elder stream. Interruptions were no longer tolerated. The hive mind was spiraling into something it had never known, doubt. Commander Zelier, head of the observation armada, finally broke the silence. We made a mistake. Humanity is not a species that evolved through harmony. They are forged in chaos. An elder responded, chaos is unsustainable. All species must find balance or perish. Then why, Zelier replied, are they still here? Silence. Carey had encountered aggressive species before, predators, dominators, destroyers. All of them burned fast and bright and died just the same. But humans were different. Their aggression wasn't just for territory or survival, it was personal, emotional. They fought for ideas, illusions, for pride and spite and vengeance. And they never stopped. On Earth, things were changing quickly. The disappearance of satellites, unexplained EMP bursts, and rumors of black helicopters became too loud to ignore. World governments knew something was up, but they didn't know the scale. Only a few within a deep shadow agency known as Aegis truly understood, the Earth was being watched, no, studied. And humans do not like being studied. Within a month, the world's top militaries had formed a clandestine coalition. Tech recovered from fallen Carey drones was already being reassembled in a cold Nevada hangar. Engineers reverse-engineered gravity drives and cloaking tech at a speed even they couldn't explain. Scientists, spies, and soldiers, people who couldn't stand each other, now worked side by side. And over them all, Project Thanatos loomed like a specter. Its directive was simple, make first contact on our terms. But humanity didn't want peace. They wanted answers. They wanted control. And above all, they wanted revenge for being treated like animals in a cage. As footage from the drones became public via data leaks, the response was explosive. Protests erupted. People stared at the skies differently now. The veil of normalcy shattered, and something even darker began to rise. A man named Mason Thorne, a disavowed ex-CIA officer now heading a private military group called Red Apex, began recruiting. We've been tested, he said on pirate radio stations. They wanted to see if we'd kneel. I say we teach them what kneeling costs. Mason's broadcast spread like wildfire. Underground labs began weaponizing alien tech independently of government control. Fringe scientists, survivalist militias, even rogue nations began assembling their own defenses. The world was splintering, but for the first time in human history, they all had one thing in common: the enemy wasn't each other, it was the Carey. Back in the orbit of Jupiter, the Carey Council's fleet hovered like a silent fortress. They observed the chaos on Earth, expecting humanity to destroy itself. That's what inferior races did when confronted with the unknown. But this wasn't destruction. This was consolidation. The Carey didn't understand it yet, but humans weren't unraveling. They were coalescing into something far worse than an empire or a resistance. They were becoming united. A new signal reached the Carey observation fleet, not from Earth's governments, not from a military agency, from an open global frequency, unencrypted, spoken in a voice filled with deliberate venom. To the Carey fleet watching us, we know you're there. We've torn apart your toys, we've mapped your orbits, and we've reverse-engineered your secrets. The signal paused. We haven't come for peace. You watched us suffer, you studied us like vermin, and now you're going to learn something new. You're going to learn what fear tastes like. There was no signature, no coordinates, just silence afterward. But then Carey orbitals started going dark, one after another. Their long-range sensor buoys collapsed. Entire data relays vanished. Cloaked satellites, supposedly invisible to primitive eyes, exploded mid-broadcast. Onboard diagnostics found something terrifying: each satellite had been hacked before destruction, and the code signature was human-made. The Carey scrambled to react, but their ships were not designed for panic warfare. Their doctrine was based on perfection and predictability. They underestimated one crucial flaw in their own logic: humanity didn't play by rules. They broke them, burned them, laughed at them. And in a moment that would be recorded in the galactic archives for eternity, the humans launched the first offensive. It wasn't a direct assault, no, that would be too merciful. Instead, the humans targeted the Carey mine net. A subtle digital virus, inserted via back door in a salvaged drone's data core, began to spread inside the Carey neural web. It wasn't just code, it was a concept, an idea, a whisper that asked a single question: what if you're not the apex anymore? That question, planted like a seed, caused something the Carey had no defense for: doubt. In a collective society that operated on harmony of thought, doubt was a disease. Ships stopped sinking. Commands failed. Some Carey began experiencing something akin to hallucinations. Others shut down completely. It was psychological warfare of the most human kind. And then Earth launched the Thanatos Protocol. 5 stealth-class vessels, barely larger than passenger planes but faster than anything the Carey had built, pierced through the edge of Saturn's rings without detection. They carried no nukes, no lasers, just men. Human commandos. And each one had been trained to use alien weapons better than the Carey themselves. Their mission: infiltrate the Carey forward base on Ganymede, upload the second stage of the virus, and leave behind something the Carey could never delete: fear. The strike was surgical, brutal, efficient. The Carey base, once a temple of technology, became a slaughterhouse. Human operatives moved like ghosts: no battle cries, no mercy. Every Carey was tagged and dropped with precision. Not one survived. And at the center of the command nexus, a final message was carved into the wall using plasma torches: this is just the beginning. The footage was uploaded directly into the Carey core stream, on purpose. Humans didn't hide their rage, they broadcasted it. The high thinkers watched the scene in silence. No words were spoken, but for the first time in Carey history, entire clusters began to disconnect from the hive mind, not by rebellion, but by instinct. Individuality was sprouting in panic, and that terrified them more than anything. Fear wasn't a weapon the humans carried, it was a virus they spread. And it was contagious. The Ganymede base was supposed to be invulnerable. Carey architecture fused with ion shielding and quantum perimeter sensors, locked into orbit by centuries of perfection. It had never known an intruder. It had never considered failure. Now it was a tomb. The footage of the slaughter played on loop within the Carey's inner sanctums. The humans didn't just kill, they humiliated. The operatives had bypassed every security layer, used Carey weapons with sickening ease, and left behind a message not in code or glyph, but in crude, chiseled Terran script: this is just the beginning. And the Carey believed it. Inside the observation fleet's neural command bridge, Commander Zelier stood motionless, surrounded by a semicircle of shimmering thought casters. The bridge was cold, not temperature-wise. Carey didn't register discomfort like that, but emotionally barren. The usual hum of synchronized minds was gone. The network's song had fractured. Too many nodes disconnected, too many clusters isolated. Fear had become self-replicating. "We should leave this system," murmured thought caster Vaughn, his voice distorted by a microfracture in his neural port, a scar from trying to resynchronize too fast after the virus. "We've awoken something worse than chaos." "No," Commander Zelier replied. "We do not retreat. Not now. If we flee, they will follow. They will know we can be broken. But we can," Vaughn said quietly. "We already have been." Silence again. Carey minds did not argue, they debated through streams of logic, trading strings of perfect rationale until consensus was reached. But now consensus had shattered. Reason no longer had the final say. Doubt had a voice, and that voice was growing louder. Back on Earth, the world had changed. What started as a whisper turned into a roar. Nations that once warred over oil and faith were now collaborating like never before. And it wasn't because they liked each other, it was because they feared being left behind. The United Terran Alliance was born not out of idealism, but necessity. Everyone wanted a seat at the table before the next punch was thrown, because the message was clear now: humanity wasn't waiting. In an underground complex buried beneath Antarctica's ice, Project Thanatos was growing. Scientists fused alien tech with human unpredictability. They weren't trying to match the carry in sophistication, they were making weapons carry minds couldn't predict. "I don't need this thing to fly perfectly," said Dr. Rivera, lead weapons engineer, gesturing to a half-built fighter that looked more like a flying blade than a ship. "I need it to hit like hell and confuse the shit out of their targeting AI." Tactics were evolving just as fast. Human commanders studied carry battle formations, not to copy them, but to ruin them. Algorithms were written not for precision, but for chaos. Programs learned to fight irrationally, to simulate rage, to weaponize unpredictability. Earth wasn't catching up in technology, it was rewriting the whole game. And then came the event that shocked the galaxy: the humans went on the offensive again. But this time, not covertly. A full assault. No stealth, no diplomacy, just raw fury. They called it Operation Backfire. A squadron of 12 human ships, each running on hybrid carry-human tech, jumped to the edge of carry-controlled space. Not to attack a military base, but a communication hub, a planetary relay beacon on the moon of Lura 7, broadcasting thought waves across 10 star systems. It wasn't just a relay, it was the brain stem of Carry Interstellar Command. And the humans didn't just destroy it, they hijacked it. Before the Carry could cut the signal, Earth's message was transmitted across 7 planets in the Carry system. This time it wasn't a threat, it was a montage. Video clips of human history: wars, revolutions, genocides, civil uprisings, atomic detonations, broken treaties, battlefield speeches, and moments of devastating brilliance. Mixed in were images of smiling children, starving orphans, betrayed leaders, betrayed lovers, and madmen dancing on the ashes of cities they had burned. The last 30 seconds showed footage from Ganymede. Infrared cameras captured human operatives moving like phantoms, a carry officer screaming, then silence, then fire. The final frame was the same line, written now in bright red earth font: "You wanted to understand us. Now you will." The Carry collective network buckled. It wasn't just about the footage, it was the emotion, the intent behind it. The Carry had believed they were studying a primitive race, but now they realized they had been studying a predator. And they'd made the mistake of poking it. Commander Zelier's fleet began receiving distress calls from colony planets, not because of human invasions, because of mass panic. Civilians were disconnecting from the thought stream. Some Carry began isolating themselves in sealed shelters, refusing to interface. Others demanded evacuation. Some began experiencing symptoms of psychological collapse. Fear was spreading like wildfire. But humans weren't done. Inside Project Thanatos, a new division emerged: Black Echo. Its purpose was psychological operations, mimetic warfare, fear seeding. They weren't just hacking networks, they were hacking minds. One of their first creations was something deceptively simple: an AI-generated voice. Male, calm, human. It was named the Whisperer. It was designed to sound just like a human interrogator, kind but disappointed, curious but dangerous. It spoke directly to intercepted Carry networks, overriding their message relays with phrases like, "We're closer than you think. You've seen our chaos, you haven't seen our order. You should have left us alone. Fear is the only language you'll understand." Even when the Carry shut down their relays, the Whisperer returned via dormant signals. It lived in the back of their minds, repeating phrases at random intervals. Some Carrie believed it was inside their own thoughts. Many began requesting disconnection from the hive altogether. And with that came something the Carrie never expected: individual rebellion. A few broke completely. Some began communicating with humans. Others attempted sabotage. One Carrie even transmitted a warning to Earth, begging them to stop before we lose ourselves completely. But Earth didn't stop. The Terran Alliance was too far in. And more importantly, they were winning. Mason Thorne, now commander of the independent Red Apex fleets, stared at the orbital map above Mars. Red dots flickered, showing crumbling Carrie signals. "You see that?" he said to his second-in-command. "That's what happens when the Apex gets outplayed by the underdog." The officer nodded. "Sir, what if they retaliate with full force?" Mason smiled. "I'm counting on it." The Carrie retaliated. It came with the fury of a collapsing star. 3 capital warships, each over a kilometer long, shimmering with gravitational armor and quantum shielding, dropped into Earth's solar system through a tear in local spacetime. They didn't wait for diplomacy, no threats, no warnings. They weren't here to talk. They were here to erase. Within 30 seconds of arrival, the fleet unleashed particle beams on Mars' outer orbit, carving through the remains of an abandoned human test station and pulverizing 3 stealth satellites. It wasn't a battle, it was a message. The Carrie were done being afraid. But they made one critical miscalculation: they assumed humanity was still playing catch-up. The first ship, Carrie Sovereign Dura, was hit with a coordinated electromagnetic disruptor pulse, one that human engineers had specially tailored after analyzing dozens of recovered Carrie neural cores. The disruptor didn't destroy the ship, it did something worse. It caused every sensor, every targeting system, every interface to lie. Carrie crew members saw phantom ships on their monitors. The walls of their own vessel appeared to bleed, shift, and scream in false frequencies. A fleet that wasn't there seemed to fire upon them in perfect synchronization. In their panic, they launched countermeasures, only to hit themselves. The ship imploded, not from human weapons, but from confusion. Humanity's true weapon wasn't firepower, it was insanity. The second ship attempted to flee, its commander sensing the trap. But it was already too late. Human fighters, designed like jagged blades of shadow, dropped from cloaked silos near Earth's moon. These weren't standard fighters, they moved erratically, using chaotic flight patterns designed by AI simulations that trained exclusively on human historical dogfights. The Carrie ship couldn't lock on. The fighters used what Earth's media had started calling the Madman Protocol, a flight strategy so unpredictable it was borderline suicidal. But that was the point. No Carrie could comprehend it. And in that blindness, the second warship was gutted from below. Its engine core detonated with stolen Carrie tech turned against its makers. That left the third ship, the Valor's Judgment. It was the most advanced vessel in the Carrie Navy, commanded by High Strategist Varric, a warmind with 9,000 cycles of experience. He had studied humans obsessively. He knew their madness, their recklessness, their blind aggression. He respected it. And that's why he refused to underestimate them. Disengage weapons. Fall into silence. Do not fire unless I command it, he ordered. His crew hesitated. They've already destroyed the Sovereign and the Haifeng, strategist. I know. That's why we wait. Let them show their hand. And sure enough, humanity did. But it wasn't a fleet. It wasn't even a ship. It was a message, broadcasted in every spectrum at once, translated perfectly into Carrie and embedded with Earth's own visual history. The screen inside Valor's Judgment dimmed, and then it began, a single looping image of a human child, blood on her face, staring into the ruins of a bombed city. Behind her, laughter, not hers, not joyous. Insane laughter, the kind that echoes after something irreversible. Then a phrase, carved in Earth's blunt text, "We learn fast." High strategist Varric stared in silence. "They are provoking us." "No," he muttered. "They are teaching us." He cut the feed and activated a secure transmission line to the Carry Core Council. "Withdraw immediately." The council was silent for a moment, stunned. "You dare suggest?" "I do more than suggest, I order," he growled. "The humans are not waging war. They are conducting a psychological campaign that we are not evolved to resist. They will not fight us in space, they will unmake us. They are pulling apart our logic, our unity, our minds. You would retreat from primitives. I would survive. And you should too." The feed cut before the council could respond. But it didn't matter. Varric knew what was coming next. Back on Earth, the footage of the destroyed Carry ships went viral faster than anything in history. Every media outlet, every underground forum, every dark web channel posted it. People screamed in joy, disbelief, and awe. For the first time, humanity felt it in their bones: we weren't just surviving, we were winning. And winning changed everything. Recruitment into the Terran Defense Force exploded. Private companies with deep black funding poured resources into experimental weaponry. Kids who once dreamed of being astronauts were now dreaming of becoming Carry killers. War had become a brand. Mason Thorne, standing before a crowd of new recruits, held up a Carry helmet. "This is what they wear when they study us," he said. "They think it protects them. You know what I see when I look at it? I see fear. I see a creature hiding behind tech because it's never fought a species that laughs while bleeding." The crowd roared. "But you're different. You're not trained to survive. You're trained to make them remember. Every shadow they see, every signal they receive, I want them thinking one thing." He slammed the helmet into the floor, shattering it. "Is this the day the humans come for me?" But not everyone on Earth celebrated. In the dark corners of the internet, some began to question the cost. A rogue scientist named Lenora Vale released a decrypted segment of Black Echo's internal logs. It showed that Project Thanatos had created something beyond mimetic weapons. It had begun experimenting with emotional AI, simulations of fear, rage, grief looped endlessly until they could be projected psychically. "Echo field devices," she wrote in her leak, "aren't just for offense. They're designed to make the enemy feel what we choose. Fear, doubt, despair. They're mind terror bombs." She was right. Aegis, the hidden hand behind Black Echo, had developed emotional payloads that could override the brain waves of Carry receptors. They didn't kill, they broke minds. Made soldiers curl into fetal positions whispering nonsense. Made officers hallucinate old memories. Made thinkers lose their minds in endless recursive doubt loops. Lenora's final warning went viral before it was scrubbed: "If we keep this up, we're not becoming monsters, we're building gods of terror. And when the Carry fall, we'll be the next ones afraid of what we've become." But the momentum was too strong, the rage too real. The Earth had tasted fear, their fear, and it was delicious. In orbit, the wreckage of the Carry fleet now floated like trophies. Human salvage crews were already dissecting it, breaking it down, studying every inch. And far away, past the dark side of the moon, a new structure began to rise. A station. Not for peace, not for science, a forward operating base. From here, the next move would be made. The humans weren't just defending Earth anymore. They were preparing to invade. The station was called Dread Spire. It wasn't a name voted on by governments or branded for diplomacy. It was named by the first soldiers who landed there. An unspoken truth hung in the air: this wasn't a defense hub. This wasn't a beacon of peace. Dread Spire was a spear, built into the hollowed carcass of an asteroid and wrapped in hybrid human Carry armor plating. The station floated like a black tumor on the edge of the solar system, silent, watchful, and waiting. From its observation decks, the human race stared into the abyss of Carey space. And for the first time in known galactic history, the abyss flinched. Inside its cold corridors, soldiers trained on zero-G obstacle courses while engineers patched together weapons stitched from fear and fury. New experimental AI ran simulations on the psychological fragility of the Carey collective, testing phrases, symbols, even colors to determine what might break them faster. In one corner of the station, a cell of Black Echo operatives watched a wall of flickering footage, Carey commanders breaking down in real time, colonists self-isolating, military formations collapsing after receiving corrupted message loops. They weren't tracking kills, they were tracking insanity. And at the heart of Dread Spire, Project Thanatos was evolving into something darker. A section called Chimera Lab had gone fully dark, blacklisted, eyes-only access. Rumors spread. Some whispered they were breeding something. Others believed they'd captured a living Carey. But the truth, as always, was far worse. Chimera Lab wasn't making a creature, it was making a hybrid. Half human, half Carey, engineered in a vat with the sole purpose of understanding fear at the genetic level. A living weapon designed not to fight, but to feel fear like a Carey and then weaponize it against them. Dr. Anton Selk, chief researcher of Chimera, described it bluntly in his personal log: "We're not studying the enemy anymore. We're becoming a mirror. If the Carey thought they were looking into a cage, they're about to find out they were standing in front of a cracked window. And something human is staring back." Meanwhile, the Carey homeworld of Zerkiel, once a monument to rationality and peace, had begun to unravel. The core council had fractured. Some of its members refused to connect to the thought stream. Others had taken their clusters underground, physically, not digitally, refusing to speak or link with anyone outside their immediate neural families. It was societal collapse, but orderly, silent, like a cathedral being dismantled brick by careful brick out of fear it might be haunted. Those who remained in power tried to project strength, issuing formal declarations of continued dominance. But their broadcasts were thin. The light behind their eyes, literally, in Carey bioluminescence, had dimmed. Because the humans had begun speaking directly to their civilians. Somehow, through systems the Carey believed impenetrable, human messages appeared on public info feeds, not threats, not taunts, just questions. When was the last time you slept without fear? How do you define a predator who doesn't hunt for food? If your unity was strength, why did it break so easily? Each message was simple, clean, delivered in perfect Carey script. And that was what made them terrifying, they understood. The fear virus, no longer digital, no longer conceptual, had become philosophical. The Carey couldn't kill it with firewalls or thought stream resets. It had infected meaning. Every question seeded doubt, and doubt was their species' kryptonite. The council held an emergency conclave. Only 3 high thinkers attended out of the original 13. The rest were either dead, disconnected, or lost to neural fragmentation. "We underestimated the humans," said the eldest thinker, Voy. "No," replied strategist Varric, now recalled from the failed invasion. "We underestimated their pain. We thought suffering was a flaw, but for humans, it's a crucible." Vel's glow dimmed. "Then we must consider surrender." Varric turned slowly. "You think they'll accept it? We surrender, we end this, we offer reparations, cooperation, perhaps we even integrate. You think they want peace?" Varric's voice was a rasp now. "They don't want peace. They want us to feel what they felt, to drown in it, to choke on it." He paused. "And we are." Back on Dread Spire, preparations for the final phase of Earth's retaliation were in motion. They called it Ashlight. It wasn't a fleet. It wasn't a superweapon. It was a reveal. For years, humanity had assumed the Carey were the apex of technology. But within the depths of ancient Terran ruins, beneath deserts, under oceans, and inside dead ice moons, fragments of something older had been found. Relics from a pre-human civilization. Tools made of unknown materials. Devices that responded to human thought. An ash light was the first working interface built using both these relics and Carey neural tech. Ashlight was an implantable consciousness, an artificial entity that lived in the user's subconscious. It could simulate emotion, predict enemy fear responses, and trigger countermeasures before they were needed. It made soldiers into living feedback loops of terror. You didn't need to think, you felt, and Ashlight acted. A squad of 25 Ashlight operatives was already active. They were nicknamed the Herald. Some called them Earth's Angels of Death. Others whispered they weren't even human anymore. Their first deployment was imminent. A warp gate near Dread Spire pulsed with energy calibrated to fold space directly into Carey's sovereign territory, not a military target, a cultural archive. The place where the Carey kept their oldest knowledge, their myths, their original algorithms, their ancient songs of logic. Because Earth didn't want to destroy their ships, they wanted to destroy their identity. But just as the gate began to glow, a new signal came through, encrypted, low-band frequency from Carey space. A surrender request. Not from the Council, not from the military, from the civilians. A voice trembled through the comms, translated into English with perfect clarity, "We cannot fight you. We no longer understand how. Please tell us what you want." The room inside Dread Spire went still. Even the Herald stopped moving. Mason Thorne, watching from the observation deck, whispered, "They finally broke." But then the question rose, what now? Because the humans didn't want territory. They didn't want riches or minerals or trade. They had never wanted conquest. They had wanted something deeper, they wanted the Carey to hurt, to question, to feel less than. And now they did. So Mason turned to the Council of Earth's last true war thinkers and asked, "What do we do with a god that learns to pray?" The Carey had surrendered, but no parades were held on Earth. No fireworks, no marching bands, no declarations of victory echoing through city streets. Instead, silence took root across the Terran network, a heavy, strange silence, like the quiet after a scream that went on too long. The message was still displayed in the war room at Dread Spire, replaying every few minutes in that low, cracking voice. It didn't come from a general, not even a politician. It came from someone they didn't expect to hear from at all, a Carey teacher. "I am Malur. I instruct young minds in logic and harmony. There are no more students. There is no more harmony. I speak not as a leader, but as a father, a brother, a creature. We understand now. We saw you as chaotic, broken, but it is we who were fragmented and blind. Please tell us what to do. Tell us what you want. Tell us how to make this end." No Carey had ever begged. Now one did, on behalf of billions. Inside Dread Spire's command chamber, the room was quiet, not because there were no ideas, there were too many. Because now winning had become the problem. General Helena Coyle, supreme strategist of the Terran Alliance, leaned over the briefing table, her eyes scanning the message for the 50th time. "This is it," she said. "No more simulations, no more psychological warfare. They're broken." Commander Raj Morrow folded his arms. "So we accept. Take the surrender. Draft a treaty." "No," said Mason Thorne from the shadows of the room. "No treaties. No mercy." He stepped forward, his expression carved in stone. He wasn't wearing military insignia, he didn't have to. Mason was the symbol now, the soul of Earth's vengeance. "You think this ends with them handing over star maps and bowing down? No. It ends when every Carey child is raised to fear a shadow at the end of their bed, when they tell stories about Earth like we told stories about hell." Raja's voice sharpened. "They've surrendered, Mason. This isn't war anymore, it's punishment. That's exactly what it is." But Helena wasn't convinced. She stared at the teacher's message again. There was no deceit in the voice, just loss, raw and aching. They're not asking for terms, she said. They're asking for meaning. And maybe that was the real problem, because now humanity had a choice it wasn't ready to face: what do we become when vengeance is fulfilled? Back on Earth, the news spread in waves: leaks, confirmations, breakdowns on live streams. Every major news anchor struggled to frame it correctly. The war was over, but the question lingered like a ghost: had humanity won, or had something else?